the Agile brand.
A vital part of the buyer's experience is, of course, getting the thing that you ordered in the first place, right? So using predictive analytics to assess the level of delivery risk before a package is shipped becomes extremely important so merchants can ensure their customers have a seamless experience. My guest today is going to talk about an innovative solution to this challenge. Welcome to One Amazing Thing About UPS Capital. I'm your host, Greg Kihlström, and I'd like to welcome Ashley Hillman, Director of New Product Innovation at UPS Capital. And she's going to be sharing one amazing thing about UPS Capital's delivery defense with us today. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing this in action here. Why don't we get started, though, with you give a little background on yourself and your role at UPS Capital.
Sure. Yeah, I've been at UPS for about 13 years now. In my current role, I'm a product director here and have been working on the delivery defense product for a little over close to a year and a half at this point. So want me to talk a little bit too about how it came about?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cool. So I obviously didn't invent it. We have a team of data scientists here, but UPS as a carrier has a ton of information at its disposal. Really what our data scientists have done is use the data that we have to create something super cool, which I'm sure I'll talk about as we're doing the demo. And then my job where I came in is in working with that team to create a product so that we could pass that information to customers, which primarily today are shippers, especially in like the B2C space.
Great. So we're going to take a look in a second here, but if you could just give us a little background, why did you choose this feature of the product to showcase, and I think you kind of mentioned the audience, but who's the audience and why is it important to them?
Yeah, so I'm choosing this feature because it's the main feature of the tool itself. What I'm going to show you is really just a scoring-based system. We're gonna type in an address and a score is going to come back. And that score is really just it could range anywhere from 100 to 1,000, and it's saying if you were to ship a package to this address, here's how confident our model is that it would result in a successful delivery outcome. And why that's important is because as a shipper, if you have that information upstream in either your order flow or your shipping workflow, before you ship the package out the door, and you know that this is a low confidence address that has a high probability of loss, now you're empowered to be able to do something proactive about it. You could add signature required, you could add insurance to it, or you could even reroute it to like a UPS access point that has a higher chain of custody attached to it.
Great. Well, yeah, let's take a look. Why don't you share your screen?
Okay, cool. All right, let me know when you can see it.
All right, yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to type in an address here, unless you have any preferences for addresses that you want me to search, but probably not live. You want to do your own.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah. I'm kind of curious about a few, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can do that after.
Right.
Okay. So there's an autofill here. So really just type in the address and you hit search and there it is. We've got this continuous color band here. You can see that the scoring ranges anywhere from 100 to 1,000. And it's very similar to like a credit score where low is good and high is bad. But for this particular address, it's scoring at 232, which is super low. So if I'm a shipper and I'm getting this address or the score for this address, I know that I want to do something proactive. So potentially I would reach out to that customer, say, hey, I think that there might be some difficulty in getting this package to this address. Is there another alternative address that we could ship to, or maybe would you be receptive to receiving it at an access point? So depending what the shipper does is really largely up to them. Lots of shippers have different tools and resources at their disposal, but it gives them that information upstream.
Yeah, well, and that's gotta increase confidence on the customer side too, right? I mean, because if the score is so low, there must be a reason for that. In other words, they must have experienced some difficulties before too, right? So, I mean, I would imagine that gives a lot of confidence from a customer standpoint.
Right, exactly. A lot goes into generating this score. So in the database, it's two kind of major things that are generating it. One is we have this massive database full of all of UPS's information, any multi-carrier UPS capital information that we have, all being stored and processed in this instance of Google Cloud. It's 2 years worth of shipping data. So there's 11 billion different deliveries over 130 million US addresses that are all being stored and processed in that instance. And then where the science comes in is really on top of that. We're using a lot of like Google AI modeling to generate the score. We're looking at things like historical loss patterns at these addresses, delivery attempts at the addresses, and return to sender instances at the address, all to generate the score. And there's things like recency and frequency that are incorporated into it too, but it's like 24 different models actually that generate the score, and that's what makes it kind of scientific. But yeah, lots of information goes into it, all to come up with this like super simplistic score that's based off of historical performance.
Yeah, and then I would imagine, I mean, that the score changes, like it's
Right.
how frequently is it updated? Like, is this, you know, because I would imagine the score could change over time too, right?
Yes, it does. Yep. It's we update the database every Thursday night. So it's constantly refreshing, and it's that rolling like 2 years worth of data that's in there. And I think two major things or two major factors that are incorporated into it, that recency and frequency, help improve the score over time, or like as behavior at an address changes, it'll refresh. So for instance, a loss that happened like 2 weeks ago means a lot more than a loss that happened 2 years ago. And then two, like maybe you've got 8 losses at a particular address, but what is that in relation to how many total deliveries that they've had? If it's only 8 losses and 10 deliveries, that's super bad. But if it's 8 losses on 1,000 deliveries, then that's not that bad. So all of that is being factored and weighted into the score, but it's not a like an algorithm. It's a actual like ML model. So it's using those neural networks in order to generate that score.
Yeah, no, very cool, very cool. So yeah, thanks for sharing this. So, you know, you kind of mentioned a few potential next steps. I mean, so if you're an organization shipping things, like what and wanted to make use of this information, you know, what's the most likely way that they might reach out? You mentioned a couple examples, but like what's a typical interaction based on this score then?
Yeah, so there's actually two ways to consume it. The first is this web tool, which we feel like is a super easy to use, impactful kind of testing ground. But obviously, for every order that you receive, especially if you have more than like 2 or 3 orders coming in, like if you're manually typing addresses, that's a lot. So we do have it. You can consume this information via an API as well and integrate it into like any of your shipping systems and even behind your checkout card if that's what you wanted. But if you're interested in learning more about it, there's if you just go to DeliveryDefense.com, that's where you could sign up for this web tool, test out the technology, and then from there, there's abilities to contact us and get in contact with the salesperson if you're interested in the API.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. Thanks so much for sharing today. Again, I'd like to thank Ashley Hillman, Director of New Product Innovation at UPS Capital, for joining the show. You can learn more about Ashley and UPS Capital by following the links in the show notes.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great talking with you.